What's going on, guys? Chad here with Greenlight Shooting. Welcome back to another video. Today we've got this WIREGEAR sight pusher. Now I've been thinking for a long time that I need to replace a couple of my sights, specifically my Glock sights. Some of you guys have been commenting on them videos. I see you out there saying, what am I still doing with the stock sights on there? I need night sights. Listen, man, I know. So when these guys reached out and asked if they could send one out for review, I said yes happily, because I'm gonna make another video with this thing, switching them sights out, and you know, we can see if it really lives up to all the hype. So anyways, this is a sight pusher block. If you're not familiar with that, basically like firearms, they have, you know, the rear sight and the front sight, and they're usually on some sort of dovetail thing that'll slide back and forth. You can just push that sight out and install a new one. Obviously it has to be a very low tolerance, very good fit, so that they're not moving around on you. So because of that, you can't just, like, you know, pull the sights out. You can kind of on some, like, get away with, like, you know, hitting it with a hammer, and it just gets a little sketchy at that point. Obviously when you get into nicer guns, nicer sights, things like that, you don't want to be messing with that. You need a proper machined sight pushing tool, and that's exactly what this thing is here. So I'm gonna show you what this thing is, the different parts, and then, you know, we'll like remove a couple sights so you can see this thing in action and why you actually need a sight pushing tool if you're planning on adjusting some sights. So there are actually two different components to this thing, a top and a bottom. I just took these top two knobs off, which hold this in place, and then this will actually just lift off. So now you can see we have the top and the bottom. The first thing about these are, number one, they're incredibly accurate. The one thing I love about these is they're not, you know, like plastic molded things or something. These are proper machined out of aluminum things with steel components. Like the tolerances are very, very low on these, which is good, because when you're working, once again, with something as precise as sights, you need something that takes away all the variabilities, right? So you can have a repeatable process every single time you do it. So yeah, very, very precise. You've got hash marks across back here, as well as hash marks on the bottom for your slide setup. So once again, you can make sure everything is repeatable. I like how they've got it set up. It's sort of a one size fits all. This is gonna work on just about every semi-auto pistol out there. So, you know, you invest in this one time and you've got something that should work across all of your different guns. I really am happy with the durability of this thing. As I mentioned, we've got this top assembly and the bottom assembly. The top assembly has a couple different parts, but its main function is this guy right here, which is just designed to go forward and back with this wheel. And this is gonna sit over your sights, and it's gonna push them or pull them depending on what you're doing. And then underneath here, you've got like a clamp block that's being utilized right here, that'll clamp that slide down into place so it's not moving around. So that top assembly sits right on these two bolts here, and then this is your bottom clamp assembly. Once again, as I mentioned, you've got hash marks right here. You set your slide in here to one side, and then you can adjust these knobs to clamp that thing into place. So once your slide is in place, you've got 4 points of pressure holding it in place on here. Slide this up over top, you've got 1 point of pressure up on top, and this will actually rotate to either a flat surface or a curved surface depending on what kind of slide you're working with. So you're covered, like I said, across the board on your pistols. But yeah, that's really all there is to this. It's kind of a simple setup, but that's kind of how it should be, I think. It's designed to do one thing and do it perfectly every time. So I'm gonna remove some sights on a Glock and a 1911 so you can kind of get a feel for how those two set up in here, and then we'll go from there. So first, a Glock. So I've got my Glock 19 slide here. I'm gonna place it inside of these two clamps, push it all the way to one side, and then rotate these dials so I can lock that in place. Doesn't need to be anything tight yet, because we're gonna move it a little bit. And then I'm gonna throw this guy up on top. I'm gonna keep this block on the back so I can line it up with my rear sights. Something about there. Now I kind of get a better idea of where this slide needs to be. So I can line that up pretty close. We will lock these in, and then I'm gonna make sure this is set to the flat setting so that it can sit flat against the top of my Glock. Drop that up on top there, perfect. Then I'm gonna use this knob to adjust my height up and down so that my pusher block is sitting just above my slide. That looks good right about there. And then I'm gonna lock those in place with these top knobs. Okay, those are locked into place. My sides are locked in, and we are fully set. Now, all I have to do now, this is the only thing that can move only through that wheel. So I'm just gonna rotate that wheel slowly, making sure to remove my sight from left to right. There it is, and then just move it slowly, keeping an eye on that sight and making sure that it's moving evenly. And then there we go. So there's my rear sight of my Glock, totally taken off. And then if I wanted to put a different rear sight on, I totally could. Just line that thing up, push it into place, making sure to pay attention to my hash marks so that I get it perfectly lined up where my last one was. And that's the same thing, you know, if you're noticing on your sights that you're, you know, a little off left or right, maybe that's something you can adjust with this so that you get a perfect, you know, straight on view every time. So now that we know that it works with the Glock slide, I'm gonna take this apart and set it up on my 1911 slide. You know, it's a little bit of a different shape and things like that. And also, I need to adjust this pusher block. So if you'll notice with Glock sights, they actually have like a 45-degree angle on the, They actually have like a 45-degree angle on the sides of these things. So there's one side of this pusher block that is set up for those 45-degree sights, and then there's one that's set up for more straight up and down sights. So I just need to rotate this whole pusher block, and I can do that. There's just some Allen screws right here. It comes with an Allen wrench. I just need to take those off, flip this thing upside down, and then mount it back into place. So here's my 1911 slide. I'm gonna throw it in here. Now this is an old one, so I'm not super worried about it, but if you've got something that's, you know, just a really high quality 1911, you don't wanna scratch it up or something like that, you can always throw like a piece of masking tape or just like a piece of felt or something between the slide and the clamps. The clamps, they feel like, they're not rubber, but they do feel like there's something on them to help them, to keep them from scratching up, you know, your nicer slides, but I would go that extra step and put something on your slide if it's something you're really worried about. So I'm gonna rotate this clamp on the bottom here to make sure that I've got the arched side down. Okay. And now that I'm using the arched side, I actually have to line this slide up in here. So I'm using these different clamps here to make sure that that arch is centered. And then I'm gonna use the hash marks on the bottom here to make sure that my slide is completely straight. So that was very useful. I got that thing perfectly into place. Got that all lined up. We've got the sights lined up on the pusher block here. Now I just want to adjust my Z level so that I'm just coming in above the slide. Right there looks pretty good. And then I'm gonna throw my top locking knobs on here. So I'm gonna take note that I am right about 22 on the hash marks here. That'll let me get another sight back into the exact same spot. And then you can see those rear sights slowly being pushed out. Boom. And there we have my 1911 sight. So that was really cool, really precise. You can tell how precise you need to be. And you can imagine if you were trying to go at these sights with a hammer and a punch or something like that, you're just not gonna get the best results. So I would absolutely recommend investing in a sight pusher tool. Something like this that's machined really high quality, that's gonna give you repeatable results, and something that has the option to work with both, you know, arch slides like a 1911 or flat slides like a Glock. So, anyways, I'm pretty stoked on this thing, man. I'm excited to continue playing with it. And like I said, I'm gonna make a video replacing my Glock sights with night sights. We'll do a little test and see if those things really live up to all the hype. So if you guys wanna pick one of these up for yourself, there's a link down in the video description below. They are running about $100 on Amazon. There are some cheaper ones, but it is what it is. Like I said, I appreciate a good machined, high quality thing that's gonna give me repeatable results. So take that for what it's worth, but I'm a huge fan of this thing for all of those reasons. So yeah, if you're interested, check out that link. If you enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up button. Comment if you are new around here, subscribe if you are down for the ride, and I will see you guys next time on Greenlight Shooting. Thanks for watching.